Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Success Mindset with Puyaganyan. Yes, that's me, your host, Industry Hall of Famer, and I'm excited to share with you another episode this week. Thousands have asked for me to make this content available to the public, and now you're getting it. I'm sure, like always, your mind will be blown away, so lean in, pay attention, and let's grow together. Who's ready? All right, we're going to go ahead and kick off our June Wealth Building Wednesday. And hello to each and every single one of you guys that are tuning in from all different parts of the world. I hope everybody's having a fantastic June thus far. I can tell you that I'm trying to figure out where in the world I can fit in a little mini family getaway, but it's like hard for me wanting to leave and interrupt my own little rhythm. And I'm sure you guys know what that feeling is like at times as well. And as I was going out there and thinking, what can I share that would be of value and also relevance for everyone today, I came across a thought about what is it that I do that allows me to kind of manage every little moving piece that I have inside of my life, right? As many of you know, obviously a lot of commitments and time requirements when it comes to what I want to do, in addition to everything that I have going on inside my family life. And also I try to have balance in keeping myself, balanced on doing things and taking care of myself as well. And there's a lot of different elements and a lot of different time zones. There's a lot of different to-do lists that show up from time to time. And what I want to do is to provide you guys a glimpse into what is it that is working for me. So the first thing that I want to share with everyone when it comes to the conversation around time management is that the rule is, if you want to improve the quality of your time management, that will lead to you improving the quality of your life. That's kind of the correlation that it has. And all of your must-dos, okay, all of the things that you must do have to be above the bar and have to be above priority from all of those other things that you would like to do, okay? And that's where, for myself, I try to separate my must-dos and my like-to-dos, so that way they don't mistakenly slip onto each other's list. And that's why I love having the RPM available to me at my fingertips, because it always zeroes me back in on what is the result and what is the outcome that I am working towards and building towards. And then it allows me to be able to turn around and look at what are my high payoff activities that are going to help me get there. Okay, so the conversation tonight's not about the RPM, but it will come up because it's a huge focal point in the way that I go out there and not just goal set, but also priority manage as well. And if everything at times feels under control, sometimes what that means is you're not going fast enough. So if you don't feel like you have control over things, I hope that's a sign of relief to you that maybe what you're doing is working. But then I hope that for those of you that are like perfectionists or like to have control over things, it maybe allows you to let go of the reins, so that way things can kind of get a little out of your reign, out of your control. Okay, so you have to understand there needs to be a little bit of a healthy balance. Now, I could have, David Copperfield says that I could have never done what I have done without the habits of punctuality, order, diligence, and without the determination to concentrate myself on one object at a time. And in today's world, we have so many things that are pulling at our attention constantly. And there's really three parts that we go in and out of anytime we are stepping into an action, right? There's the warm up and getting yourself ready to take action. There's the actual working on the task itself. And then if you're anything like me, you like to wind it down, put things away, maybe get yourself a little organized for the next time you step into activity. So everyone's steps are a little bit different, but what I find in most common, people have these three steps that they're going after when they're chasing down a task that they want to accomplish. And what I've learned is that there's an estimated number, it is estimated that you stop working every time you have like an electronic disruption of some sort. For example, surveys have shown that it takes sometimes on average 17 minutes to get yourself back into momentum and back into the same flow of things when you allow yourself to get distracted electronically. The average adult, through surveys, has been found to check their email 3 to 150 times per day, according to Business Insider. Now, that's one of the things that I moved away from, not having to chase down and babysit my emails consistently. Now, does that still exist? To an extent, but now it just shows up in a different way through text message or maybe Facebook Messenger a little bit, okay? So there needs to be some system and organization to what you're doing so that you don't have all these dings and bings and alerts and alarms that continue to go off. A majority of my social media alerts and notifications are turned off. My phone is on silent a majority of the time. And then like a lot of the reminders and alerts are turned off unless it's associated with my calendar or some sort of an alarm clock. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit more. But what we want to do is start developing a little bit of a habit of getting all of our ducks in a row before the next day begins. So that way we're not going into the new day hoping that our emotions are right, okay? We don't want to go into the new day thinking about how do I feel here in this moment. Instead, you can ask yourself, what are the things that I said I was going to do before this day even began? And that's the terminology around planning your day before your day begins. And this needs to become a habit that you develop. Now, I suggest for most people that they start planning their lives on some sort of a paper system. And the way that I was taught to do it by my mentors is to begin the habit of planning my day before my day begins. Then to turn around and to plan my week before my week begins. And then to turn around after I've developed those muscles of daily and then weekly, then I plan my month, and then I learn to plan my year. And this could be a several week, several month process, sometimes several year process. And it really is a muscle that we all need to build for ourselves. My suggestion is that you begin doing your training, development of the habit through paper planning, okay? Then through the habit building of planning your day before your day begins through paper, eventually, once that's ingrained inside of you, you can transition into more of like an electronic system. The electronic system that I prefer to use, everybody's a little bit different. For me, is Google Calendar. It integrates perfectly for everyone. I know a lot of people love using their iPhone calendars, but I can tell you there's more people that use their iPhone calendar that miss appointments with me or miss a commitment of some sort than any other calendar platform I've ever learned. So if you've figured out a way to make it work for you, then I'm really thumbs up for you. But what's worked and what's worked for most people is Google. I, for myself, have my laptop that plugs into an external laptop at home. So I always have a week at a glance available to me. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to chunk my activity together, okay? So, for example, if I have a call on Monday night at 3 p.m. Pacific, my attempt is to take all the things that I have happening on Monday and chunk them together. If I have Wealth Building Wednesday on a Wednesday night, I'm not going to go and book in random appointments in my day when I could chunk everything within a few hour period of time. So that way I'm in a mode of coaching, I'm in the mode of recruiting, I'm in the mode of follow-up, I chunk it together. So that way I'm not constantly changing these frames and these mindsets that I'm in. Again, if you have something that works for you, awesome. But this is what works for me. I first started planning everything and chunking everything together into one day it overfilled into the other days. And then like for myself, I've developed a system where like now, if there's anything, errands that I need to run, I schedule that into one day of the week. So that way I'm not trying to run errands and drive and make phone calls and show up for appointments when they all can just be clustered together. Does that always work? No. Are there times I have to leave the house and take my mother to doctor for her spine? Yes. But I tried to avoid it and try to group everything together so that everything that's happening out and about is done inside of one day. Everything that is like prospecting related, I try to chunk it together so that way I'm in that one frame of mind there in that moment. All right. I also have the Google Calendar app on my phone, and then I just operate off of the schedule app. So everything just kind of is there. It's not on a calendar format. It's just like once there's an appointment, it shows up, and then I have a 10-minute warning that's there for me. What I often catch people doing is they're doing this and they're doing that. They've got a lot of stuff happening. Now, I understand when you are being pulled a lot of different directions, when you've got your job or when you have children and stuff. But what I'm doing is sharing best practices that have worked for me, and hopefully end up being best practices that could end up improving what you're doing for yourself. Now, that's how I manage my time scheduled events. Nothing's overwhelming. I know what my day looks like. Honestly, I at this point know what my life looks like 2 weeks in advance because that's where I'm booked out in advance currently. If that's not you, fine, right? But then that's, like I said, what I said, time schedule events. If you're at a place where you just have so many time scheduled events because from 9 to 6, you're at your job, then from 6 to this, you're doing your kids, and like there's a lot of demanding things, then what I like to do, or what I suggest to people to do, is to book what I call a power half hour for themselves. You can do it and get other people on your team to participate in it, or at minimum, it's a powerful activity for yourself. So that way you can then turn around and you can, have that half hour, and that is focused on high payoff activity. For me, I don't have children, so it's easy for me to schedule in a power half hour multiple times into the week. And when I show up, I am doing my high payoff activities at that time. I'm not training other brand partners. I'm not reading my personal development book. I'm not organizing or doing my RPM. I'm doing the highest paying activities available to me, which we'll talk about here in a quick second as well. All right. For those of you that don't have that type of, let's say, control or structure because you got kids and you're just like, you don't have control. You can't put them on a schedule, right? What happens is you now will find pockets of time throughout your day, maybe, where maybe you have 30 minutes of peace and quiet. What I suggest to do is that could be your power half hour, but it's more spontaneous than structured like it is for me. And what you could do is grab yourself like a little index card. You can write down what are the 5 high payoff activities that you are committed to doing during that power half hour. And you do not go to activity number 2 until you do activity number 1. You don't go to activity number 3 until you do activity number 2. And that allows you to focus on your 20 percenters if you're living a little bit off your RPM. And the reason I like planning my day before my day begins is I'm not reactive to my day. I'm not reactive to my emotions. I'm not reactive to the flood of text messages. I wouldn't be reactive to, the attitude of family members if I was living with any, right? It allows me to be more responsive to what's going on. I have a task. I have, I would have to show up at my job even if I wasn't feeling like it in the morning. Sometimes when you become your own boss, it's easy to not show up. It's easy to I'm not feeling like it. But it's different when you plan your day before your day begins. You should plan your family life. You should plan your career life before it begins so you're more intentional and more effective as you step into the day of life. And that way you're not feeling your way through the day, but instead you're working yourself productively through the day. And I often tell people, how much time do you have in your day? And everybody responds saying 24 hours. Well, the funny thing is that same answer is true for myself. That same answer is true for the Tony Robbins and the Oprah Winfreys of the world. So we all have the same amount of time in a day, but it's what we do with that time. It's how we manage and prioritize that time. It's not always about time management either. It sometimes is more about priority management, okay? And what we do repeatedly becomes a habit. And that's what excellence is. It's not an act, but a habit of something you do. So like for me, when I created my, RPM for my Neora business, and if you're brand new and you don't know what this is, it's okay. You'll learn at a later time. When I see what my high payoff activities are, when I see what my 20%ers are, I create that into a daily discipline. Just like I fix my bed every morning, just like I brush my teeth every morning, just like I'm getting in the habit of working out every single morning, just like I do my morning affirmations or mantras or incantations every morning, I'm turning in my happy birthday samples into a discipline every single day. I'm turning into doing my social media like a pro every single day. I'm turning these into those little daily activities. So that way I do it like it's a no-brainer, such as reading a book, right? A new book that I just picked up that I'm excited to dive into, all right? And an app that I actually use for that is called Strides, Strides. You may have heard me talk about it plenty of times, but I literally manage almost everything in here, from fixing my bed to doing my morning incantations to doing my 3 gratitudes a day, coming up with $1 billion idea, doing my personal development, exercising, reviewing my RPM daily, using my night cream, flossing my teeth, like the simple mundane things. But that's how my brain operates. I'm very systematic in the way that I like to do things. Another part that I want to talk about, since we're kind of here on this RPM, is that I've done this RPM thousands of times, right? Like with people, probably 10,000 plus people at this point. I've had individual coaching calls with hundreds, if not 1,000, multiple thousand individually. And after having done this so many times, this really boils down to the 3 highest paying activities that any of us can do in this business. And it's the 3 laws of our industry. The first one is that exposure using a third-party tool is everything. If you are ever confused on what to do, go to law number 1. Exposure using a third-party tool is everything. And exposure meaning taking somebody from not knowing about our products and opportunity simply to knowing about our products and opportunity. All right? Number 2, fortune is in the immediate follow-up. I can assure you your business is not your prospect's priority. And that's why we have to follow up with our prospects. And then the third element to it is work with the willing. And you have to understand that it is easier to give birth to the new than try to revive the old and the dead, brand partners. And there's always going to be people that are engaged right now. And then there's always going to be people that are going to be engaged at a later time. But what's going to be important, what's going to be key for you as you go out there and build your wealth is for you to always be consistent. For you to never teeter-totter from bucket A to bucket B, but to just stay consistent. To do the things slight edge over a long repetitious time where you don't need a break from it. I don't need a break from saying my happy birthdays. I don't need a break from brushing my teeth. I don't need a break from reading my book. Or, I guess, exercising, I could use a little bit of a break in, but, I'm new to it, right? My body just needs to freaking rest afterwards from it, okay? So I think a big part of this to understand is that, like, for those of you that are new, this is new. You're trying to figure out how to fit it into your life. This is something that is simple. This is something that you should be able to fit in about 5 to 10 hours a week. Now, can you go make 6 figures doing this 5 to 10 hours a week? I can't say no because there's people definitely doing it. But are you likely to? No. Is it possible? Absolutely. I've seen everything happen here. But when it comes to you having this RPM, you have to rip it out of your notebook. Do not, like some of you sometimes takes pictures of it and it's in a spiral bound, rip it out. Put it in a protective sheet, keep it in front of you. You know, I've set up my life to where I can pack up and leave and go on a vacation for a month, and I could function and operate my entire life that same exact way, right? And I'm talking about the functionality of my business. Between my laptop, between my little, travel calendar, my, 5-year, my RPM, like I'm kind of like set to go, and I'm pretty mobile. Now, I've had to develop the ability to do that because pre-pandemic, all I did was travel 24/7. So I had to find a way to fit this into everything that I have going on and to develop the habit of doing it even when I was on an airplane, even when I was transporting through, a train, or I was commuting or driving somewhere to get to an RRP or an in-person regional. All right. So there is a future of simplicity here for you. I want you to know. You have to find the time to get your highest paying activities done. If you're finding that it's not getting done at the end of the night, get it done in the morning, right? If you know you're going on a vacation for a week and there's posts that you need to do or samples that you need to get done, let's get them done and planned and prepared before you go on that vacation. So that way you're not stressed about doing it while you're on vacation. One of the blessings I had working for Tony's company is I worked with a lot of very successful entrepreneurs. And can you believe that all of those entrepreneurs had busy lives? They all still went on family vacations, but yet they all managed to still check in on their livelihood. They still all managed to check in on their empire they were building for at least 30 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, to make sure it wasn't burning down and crumbling. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't do things in preparation so that they had less work to do, but they still got in, checked in on things, made sure things were functioning, and then they made it happen. For me, when people talk about going on a vacation, I'm like, how perfect to be able to commercialize the fact that you can do your vacation, your business from the beach, or that you can do your business from Europe, or that you can do your business from your cabin with your family. To me, that's attraction marketing. To me, that's all of those people being able to message and say, I always see you traveling. What are you doing? I always see you traveling and working. What is it that you do? So don't miss out on those opportunities because you forget the longer scale picture of the future you're building, because that's really what we're building. We're building a life that we don't need a vacation from, right? And for myself, when I'm here and I'm in the work and I'm doing the thing, I try to do all of my activity in a group setting. So if I'm doing a power half hour, I'm going to invite as many people in my open line to be a part of that power half hour. If I'm doing a virtual pop-up party for somebody, I'm going to invite other people to be a part of it to get the motivation and to learn from that experience. If I'm doing a training, I try to include as many people as possible so I do my activity publicly. That goes the same with your 3-way calls. That goes the same with maybe your game plan interviews or your fast start game plans with your new brand partners. Sometimes maybe with your coaching calls as well. So take this RPM out of the notebook and keep it in front of you. So that way you're not, I always joke around to people and I say, like, if you're driving somewhere and you've got your directions on your phone, and then you put your phone down on the passenger seat, then it's like, it's useless. Your directions aren't going to help you if it's turned upside down, not in front of you. That's why you need to have your phone stand so your hands free, but then you've got the directions right there in front of you. And that's the purpose of this RPM. It doesn't need to be perfect, okay? A good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. And, what's funny is pilots are off course 85% of the time. And what I find is that's how we live our lives. It's not a straight line. You can't even find a straight line in Mother Nature. Everything is curving, squiggly, swaggly, left and right. And that journey's the same in our business. I sometimes get on the phone with people and they're like, well, I'm in a dry season or I'm in a dry spell or this or that. What's important is that you remember where you're going. In California, if I'm going from Orange County to Los Angeles, it's an hour and 30-minute drive. I hit 25 minutes of traffic. I'm not going to let that 25 minutes ruin my hour and a half journey. right? Especially when I know the end destination of where I'm going, when I know what I'm going to get there and it's going to be done and over with. And that's kind of what we have to trick ourselves doing constantly in this business. And I keep talking about like slow cooking and stuff, and people love the kind of analogy, but like people want crockpot success in this business, but they're only willing to put in like short burst types of activities, microwave bursts of activities. It's not going to give you the same type of results, right? People look at me and they don't realize that there's a story behind the story, right? I was like the slow and steady. I was like the freaking tortoise in the race for a very, very long time. But what happened is I knew I had a big, massive goal in the distance, and I tried to break it down into small bite-sized pieces. It's kind of like Russian dolls, right? One doll jumps into the next doll, into the next doll, into the next doll, into the next doll. That's how our life needs to be. That's how our 5-year vision needs to be. That's how our 90-day or 6-month RPM needs to be, is in a very similar way where it's chunked down into little bite-sized pieces. Are you always going to get to that destination? Are you always going to get to that pit stop or that road stop exactly when you plan? No. But all you need to know is that you're going to get there when you've got a navigation system in front of you. And in the end, it's not the arrival of the destination that really matters the most. Having helped a lot of people get to their destination in my life, having helped a lot of people or witnessed a lot of people get there, it's more the person they become along the journey that matters the most. Most will make the claim that, you know what, I'll give back the money, but as long as I keep who I am, because they know that they can replace it. And when you have those small little activities, when you have those 20%ers, when you know those little slide edge disciplines that you need to be doing and you're tracking it, another great way to keep yourself accountable to it is with an accountability partner, like a workout partner, someone that you can share it with, maybe somebody in your upline that will actually know the like what you're working towards. These are all things that you can do to hold yourself accountable. But I also think when it comes to accountability, I have to mention one of the most important decisions you and I ever make is who we spend our time with, because you become who you spend time with, right? So are you around around people that are managing their time properly? Are you around people that have a positive mindset? Are you around people that build each other and themselves up? Are you around people that have goals, that are motivated, that are driven towards going after something? Because Tony Robbins says that when your mindset becomes congruent with where it is that you want to go, that's when success begins to happen. How would you run your business if you had 1,000 people on your team right now? How would you run your business if it were generating you, $100,000 a year? How would you show up if it were paying you $50,000 per year? A lot of people tell me I'm doing this effort, but it's like, listen, like this is actually paying you more than your job is, and you're more serious about your job than your freaking business, right? And the way you treat it. So this all boils down to building that discipline, right? Or I like to call the habit. So that way we're getting this life we don't need a vacation from again. For me, some of those discipline is saying my happy birthdays every single day, whether it's posting on their wall or whether it's sending them a private message. For me, the habit I've now built is making sure I get back to all of my text messages within a timely manner, getting back to all my Facebook messages within a timely manner. I've developed these type of things as disciplines. This wealth building Wednesday that we're doing is nothing more than a slide edge discipline. Even I love plants. If anybody knows, people joke around that I've got like this green thumb and stuff, but I even call Wednesdays water my plant Wednesdays, right? Whatever works, you have to build it up for yourself. You have to develop the habit for yourself. And that's why you have to learn to make use of your time. That's why you have to learn to be conscious. That's why you have to learn to look for opportunities, right? When you're on that vacation, being able to promote the lifestyle of having a side gig, You can meet people going to all the weddings you're going to. You can meet people at the summer camps. You can meet people at all the birthday festivities that you're going to. We are in the business of people, right? Focus on the power of spare time. It's so funny. When I started working for Tony's company, they were so adamant about me working full time. And I refused because this was my number one priority. But what happened is through my efforts being consumed by his company, it taught me how to work this business full time, but in spare time hours. Now, do I do that today? Not necessarily. I'm a lot more effective. I make use of all the time I have available, but that's the beauty of this. But if you're learning right now how to fit this into a 5 to 10 hour work week, learn how to be more effective in that 5 to 10 hour work week so that when you add another 5 hours or when it earns another 10 hours, you're actually more effective. You get more done in a smaller period of time. For myself, I already said I'd like to chunk my activity together. So that way, if I have, calls in the morning, then my evening's left for me to do other things that are more productive. I talked about my power half hours. Again, if you need to make a little index card, so that way, if you have a 10-minute break at work, you're not looking through messages, you're not scrumbling through papers. Your little index card tells you these are at the activities you need to do first. And if you are ever, again, stuck in your business and you don't know what are the things to do, you don't know what's going to move you forward, what's going to get you closer to your goal, my mentor always said, Rita is the answer. Right? I'm sorry, Rita, okay? Recruiting is the answer, all right? So let's talk for a minute about so I already talked about like these Water My Plant Wednesdays, some fun things, some fun themes that you can do for your calls, some fun things that you could do for your parties, some fun things that you could do, themes that you could do for a workout session with you and your team members. You could have a timeout Tuesday, right? You could have, like a motivation Monday. You can have thankful Thursday or a wellness Wednesday, or these are just different themes that you can do. So that way, when Thursday shows up, it triggers something in your mind to remember that activity. Or it could be like a sample Saturday and Saturday shows up and you're like, you know what? Today's my day to follow up with samples. Or it could be a follow-up Friday. These are the type of little tricks that I play and I've learned other people play to make sure they're doing the things that need to get done. So some of the daily habits that I've seen successful people do is they have some sort of a miracle morning, okay? They have some sort of miracle morning that gets themselves in the right mindset to charge after their day. Whether that's a workout, whether that's prayer, whether that's meditation, whether that's looking at your RPM, visualization, you need a mindset recheck. Or I'm sorry, the way I like to put it is like an athlete never steps foot out onto the field before warming up and conditioning their body. My encouragement is that you don't step out into the game of life without warming up and conditioning your mind. So that way you can manage your energy, you can manage your mindset. And again, I'm going to say it again, but for me, it's planning my day before my day begins. On a Sunday, it's focusing on planning my week before my week begins. I think I already mentioned the follow-up Friday, but like for me, I block off a period of time where I dedicate 30 to 40 minutes and I do that with myself or other people. And you can make it a part of your follow-up conversation. Like, hey, this is my usual follow-up Friday and I wanted to follow up. I wanted to check in with you. I wanted to see if you had a chance to use the product, look at the information, join my virtual party. So again, we're going to go in and out of very busy seasons during our time of being on this planet. One of the advantages we have is having already gone through that a lot. The more experience and more seasons we go through, but the disadvantage for our baby brand partners, they never have. So if you can coach them, if you can help them, if you can teach them some of the tips and tricks that you do that allows you to make this work into your life, that's going to help shave off their learning curve. And, I remember my mentor telling me when I used to go and use the O word as in overwhelm was the word I used to use often. He taught me first to get that word out of my dictionary and never to use it, which I'm so grateful that he did because that shifted everything, starting with my mindset. But then what happened is I began getting resourceful. And again, I gave the example. If you're scheduling yourself to do your exposures in the morning and it's not getting done, go find another time in the day to make it happen. If you're doing it at the nighttime and it's not happening, then you need to move it to another part of your day. If you're trying to plan your day before your day begins and it's just not happening, how do you put your calendar where you will see it every night before you fall asleep? How do you set an alarm on your phone so that way it goes off every time at the same time and it reminds you to do this? I assure you, the more and more that you do this, the more and more disciplined and the more and more comfortable you are going to become. So I hope this was valuable for you. I hope that this kind of refines some ways that you can manage your own time. Again, we're all busy. We all have so much stuff going on in our life all the time. And I know some of you do different things and you are rocking it and it works really well for you. This, for me, is what I've developed and I've kind of groomed over time that allows me to manage a bunch of different time zones. It allows me to manage a team of 100,000 people. It allows me to, feel comfortable to go on a vacation or to pack up and go on a tour if I needed to. And all I wanted to do is just kind of share a little bit of it with you again. So if you're going to do a call on a Monday morning, why not chunk those together? If you're going to do something with your team on a Friday, why not chunk those things together? And eventually that same thing will start to duplicate out into your teams. And if you have anything that is working for you or a tip or a trick that you can share with me that I can help other people, please do not hesitate to reach out. I am a simple and short message away. In closing, what I want to say, farmer's mindset, you guys. A farmer goes out there and he doesn't plant one seed and then come back and say, hey, an hour later, 2 hours later, even a week later, say, hey, where is my fruit? Why aren't you bearing me fruit? The farmer goes out there and plants hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of seeds, knowing it will bear him fruit. When he pulls the weeds, when he waters, when he fertilizes, provides it sun, provides it shade, when he goes through that whole process, that same thing, he knows it will bear him fruit. I assure you, in my time of having been a brand partner, if you heard my Slide Edge talk this Monday, a lot of this activity can become mundane. A lot of this activity can become very, very boring, can I say, right? But I can assure you, when you stay consistent, I can assure you when you do it over a repetitious time, you will see the fruit of all of that consistent, disciplined behavior. So I'm proud of you guys and I love you all. Thank you so much for showing up. If there's anything that you need, please shoot me that message. Love you. Have a great one. Cheers.